I thought I actually blew the car up again. This car is giving me anxiety. All right, so where we last left off, we got boost control dialed in. We got the gear ratios all set up on this car. So we still have a few more things that we have to set up before I can actually take this thing off the dyno and then get it out of here. So first and foremost, we're gonna go ahead and check to see what our cold starts are like and what our ethanol content is. So we added a couple gallons of 93 into it, and we ended up with an ethanol content of E50. So ideally I'd rather have it lower than that, but I mean, that's totally fine. We're only checking for functionality to make sure that the car still runs halfway decent and like our boost control and all that other stuff works. So by the way things are looking, it seems like it's working okay though. Okay, we got a couple things set up. Most notably, we had to assign a virtual output for the flat foot shift. So we have upshift, flat foot upshifts, and then we have our launch control set up. So since I know you guys love that stuff. So launch control set up, we got flat foot shift. So flat foot shift is wide open throttle shifting. And what you do is basically, you're wide open throttle, you're about to go to shift, you just clutch in. And then there's a delay that should smooth everything down to allow you to do like a 1-2 shift. I've already tested it. It's not ideal to test it on the dyno, but I did it anyways because I'm kind of a rebel. So all that stuff is set up. Now that the car's been running for a while, we're going to just basically check to make sure that our boost levels are kind of within par of where they need to be in terms of being on E50 or so, that I believe. So in our sport mode, this, as you can see, this access is ethanol here, and this access is RPM. And so we have this set at 50 so we can get it to spool up a little bit faster. But as you can see, by the time that we reach anything above 6,000 RPMs, you'll see that the boost is down 1%. So that's why I was hoping to get a little bit less ethanol content, but this should bring it down. Now the thing is that 1% is not really going to do anything, so I don't really foresee it actually making any real difference. And then if you look over here on our sport sharp mode, it should be a bit more aggressive. So anything that's above E70 yields 40% duty cycle, and then it should come down to about the same as whatever sport produces. So our boost levels should be basically about the same between the two modes now, just because of the ethanol content difference. So I've went ahead and reset the target boost, or the peak boost value here. I've got dyno set up. So we're just going to do a run, and our run is just going to consist of us going to whatever peak boost is at. We don't have the fans running or anything like that, so we just want like quick, simple to make sure that it actually works. So we're gonna go ahead and record this to make sure that everything is in fact working like it's supposed to. Okay, so it's mostly working. Boost levels on wastegate mode 3 is a little bit on the higher side, as we anticipated. So it ran at 37, and then on the other log, or on the other boost control mode, it ended up right at 34. So it's basically working. The issue is that the control range is not very good, so it's not working as good as I'd like it to work, but it does in fact work. But yeah, so everything else looks the same. as you can see, it is doing something, but like I said, the control is not as fine. So I think we basically have wrapped it all up. I do want to go over the numbers really quickly and kind of move backwards, if you will. So this is on E85 on 21 pounds of boost, and you can see that our overall power here is 425 and 393. Now, we don't know anything about this motor. We don't know if it's built, we don't know if it's stock, but we're not taking our chances. The thing is that the power comes on pretty late. I mean, peak power is like basically in the realms of 6,000 RPMs, and that's 21 pounds of boost. Now, I do want to mention that the car is on the stock top mount intercooler. I know it's really silly to go rotate it and all this other stuff and stay with the stock top mount. I get that. But this was done with a hero run, meaning that the car was completely cool. You know, like it was cooled down for about 45 minutes, fans were blowing. And you can see that it's basically, that's all it's got. Now, that is definitely in the realms of unsafe. Not only did we max out the top mount, but we also are like on the lines of maxing the injector. So that's his kill map. And you know, he knows that it may pop under those conditions. Now, at 16 PSI though, you can see that the power is right at 400 with about 460 foot-pounds of torque. Now this number was actually a bit higher. I pulled out some timing just to keep it safe, because I think 350 torque is about where safe is at on these cars. But again, another thing is that if you look, it's making peak power at 5,500, peak torque at 5,500. So we could have it spool up a little bit sooner, but like I said, this is kind of where I think is like happy and safe. And then I do want to mention that the power gains between 16 and 21 is really not that different. What I mean by that is that it took 5 PSI to generate about 30 horsepower. So it seems like we're kind of on the efficiency range of this turbo. I don't really think that there's any more steam to be had. And the last graph I want to talk about, or the last two rather, is going to be pump gas and E85, both on 14 PSI. Now, the pump gas map though is not optimized by any way, shape or form. It was just enough, or well, I lied, it's probably optimized a little bit, just because the 93 map really was just really to get the car nice and safe. If he ever ran out of E85 and he had to put pump gas on it, it should run relatively normal. Now, I think there's a little bit room to optimize this. Now, this was about 14 pounds of boost, but you can see that there's a clear difference between E85 and 93, obviously. Now, the thing is, though, is that when I was running the 93 ignition map on E85, and the power was almost the same. There was like no real gains with the same ignition timing despite the fuel, which makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, so there is gains to be had. I think if we had optimized 93, we'd be a lot closer. There is one last thing that I want to mention as well, and this is more a dyno issue than the car. If you look at the very end here, you'll see that it starts to run kind of goofy, right? And you'll see that the RPMs kind of don't match at the end. So this is the E85 21 PSI and the 93 map, just for example. You'll see that the RPMs kind of don't end at the same spot, and that's actually an issue with the dyno. So you have this thing with smaller pencil rollers that they do have to be strapped like very specifically, and you have to check the straps, but mainly because the tires deform. So as they get hot, the tires will actually deform. So what we actually do is when we get the car on the dyno, we actually take some air out of the tire, strap it down, and then we fill it back up. And that kind of helps us a lot with tire deformation. But like I said, it's pretty accurate. What I would say is that because there's no actual RPM input, so the dyno, you set up the dyno so where you say this is 2,500 RPMs and you calibrate it in the same sense that you calibrate ignition timing with a timing light. You basically do the same thing, and after that it calculates it. But as tires deform, as they get hot or worn down or whatever, you'll see that the tire deforms, and it usually happens at the very end here. So it's not really uncommon. I would say though, it should be about the same in terms of like where peak power and stuff goes. It's just the graph doesn't look as pretty at the end. And just to show you guys this effect, I'll pull up the last, the 16 PSI run, and you can see that it basically will follow suit. You see, as you can see there, that little lump at the end that happens. You can see that it's more apparent when on the 21 PSI run there. So here we are in the STi. I was going to do some vlogging today, but I seem to misplace my laptop. So I grabbed my other laptop, my old trusty Dell, and the fun part about it is that I didn't update PC Link, so now it doesn't work. So it doesn't really matter. What we're gonna do now is we're basically going to take it on a drive. We're still at like E50 something, I think. And what we're going to do is we're gonna make sure that our gear settings are correct. So right now, third gear yields about 16 PSI and sharp, or in sport mode rather. And what we're going to make sure is that in fifth and sixth, that we don't get any crazy overboost is what we're trying to make sure of. And if it does, obviously we'll have to make some changes. However, with the laptop not connecting, we can't really make any changes on the fly. So the only thing that we really can do, in my opinion, is just test it. So we know that this car, about 5,000 RPMs is when it makes peak boost. Or not make peak boost, but it starts spooling rather. So we're going to see if we can try to attempt to do that in fifth or sixth. Obviously you really don't want to do that, but you know, sometimes you can. I don't think we'll have an issue because the turbo's kind of a bit lazy on this car. So let's see what happens here. We're at 3,000 RPMs, we're climbing. So it creeps a little bit, and fifth, excuse me, but not too much. So, and it takes a long time to get there too. So I think for the most part we'll be okay. So I thought I actually blew the car up again. This car is giving me anxiety. But one of the hoses actually came off for the fuel system. So this is a push lock line, but the line failed. So you can see that it started to come loose, and we actually ended up getting a fuel pressure failure for it. So it scared the hell out of me though. So that's definitely something that's gonna have to get taken care of. So I'm gonna go ahead and just limp this guy back to the shop, I think. All right, so the car damn near gave me a heart attack. But the push lock line for now is actually holding on. I didn't do any more pulls. I just went ahead and just stuck it back on, and it's actually kind of tight. So I'm not sure why it failed. Because, you know, when we put push locks on, we actually use a tool that pushes them together. And, you know, we give it a nice pull and it tested good. So I'm not really sure why it did it. And we, you know, I probably have like almost 40 dyno runs on this car on the dyno without any issues. So I'm not sure why that hose decided to fail out of nowhere. The problem is that because it is a push lock hose, it's already failed. Meaning that there's no way I can send this car off because I know that hose is going to fail again. It didn't have a tight seat. I'm not sure why. It could be from the simple fact that maybe when we cut the hose, and it might not have cut perfectly straight. If it didn't cut perfectly straight, like, you know, if it didn't cut perfectly straight and the fitting just doesn't have a good bite on it, but either way, it's failed. So it needs to be replaced. The problem is I don't know if I have any more push lock at the shop, and I'm kind of too afraid to get to the shop and then just not have any. So right now, like I said, I shoved it on enough where it's holding and it's going to be okay. So I'm already at that point where the car is already in town, like closer to my house. So I'm at the gas station right now. I'm going to put a couple gallons of pump gas into it, and we'll go ahead and we'll just check the flex mix and see how it does. I don't know what the ethanol content was beforehand, but I've added 4 gallons of pump gas into it, about 15 bucks or worth, and we're just going to drive it. And realistically, it should drive relatively normal, you know what I mean? So it's not something that I should have to monitor on the laptop the entire time. You know, it should just work. So I'm gonna go in here. I gotta pick up some stuff from inside for my kid, and then I'll drive this thing home and without trying to pop off that fuel line, and it should be good though. All right, back in the car. Fires right up, no problems. Still got the check engine light from probably the low fuel pressure from earlier. So now, like I said, it should just drive normal. There should be no real hiccups or anything like that, hopefully. So now I've got to make a quick stop here. I'm happy to say that it's totally fine. It didn't make any difference. So we'll check it out in the morning, see how it does in the morning. And then we'll limp it to the shop. Hopefully we have the materials to fix the hose. And I think I know what happened. I tried to do a flat foot shift, first and second flat foot shift. And I wonder if the hose is just a little too short. And that's what caused it to pull. I don't know for a fact, because if you think about it, on the dyno, we're only in fourth or fifth gear doing pulls back to back. So the motor's not really rocking. And I wonder if that's what it was. So I'm hoping that's what it is, but I can't promise it. But anyways, it made it home totally fine. Didn't leave me stranded. We're going to go ahead and call this a night, and then I will come back out in the morning. We'll hit it in the morning, see how the cold start does in the morning, and we'll limp it back to the shop and we'll go from there.
The next day.
First start of the day, starts right up. Perfect. So we'll give it a second here as I back out of my driveway. And it seems like it's running totally okay. So I'm gonna head into work. Hopefully we've got the material to replace the line that we killed yesterday. So we're currently on E32 to be exact, is what we're on. I'm actually pretty scared because of that hose that popped off, but we had some and I did make it longer. So now what we're going to do is we're just gonna check over our boost control, make sure that it all works, and then this car is done and out of here.